There'll be debates in the States, too, about several players like Cole Caulfield and Tage Thompson and Clayton Keller as we look at the American roster. And let's face it, you guys were mentioning Canada perhaps specifically built to beat this team, the Americans led by Matthews and Eichel and Jack Hughes down the middle, and a really talented defense squad with Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox, and a place where they certainly have an advantage on paper with all three goaltenders over the Canadians. You look at this American squad, who is better on paper, Canada or USA?
The same answer I said in the summer. On paper, the American team is better. Canada might have the best three players in McDavid, McKinnon, Makar.
But that's a lot to have the best three.
It's not how hockey works, though. You need the best 12. and the U.S.
Well, it's not like the 3 to 12 aren't that great for Canada.
The defense is much stronger. The goaltending is significantly stronger. And even the depth up front is just as good as Canada. So I think why you think Canada would have a great chance in this tournament? Because it's Canada.
Yeah.
Because they always have the best chance. Because when it matters most, they find ways to do it more than the Americans have at the highest level.
Is that why you want American tie today, which is basically red, white, and almost gray?
I think the Americans have the best roster on paper.
I do too. I grew up always watching Wayne Gretzky, Mary Lemieux, Sidney Crosby. Like, those guys always seem to get it done in the clutch, and that's why I think Canada will win this. But that American team on paper only, that's as good as it gets. That's size, that's toughness, goaltending, elite goaltending, all of it. It's just you can't, on paper, get better than that roster right there.
Craig has a bright red tie, I will note. Your thoughts on Canada versus USA?
A bright red tie and my Canada 150 shirt with Maple Leafs on it, James. So like I came dressed for the occasion. But I think I agree that USA is the better team. And here, when you look at a hard team, a big team, think of the last two Stanley Cup champions. Think about the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Big, hard, heavy, along the walls, and make life really hard for you. I think this USA team is built exactly like those two recent Stanley Cup champions.
And the one thing this group of American players have is no scar tissue from losses to Canada. No big tournaments where they've played together and not come through. Because they haven't had the opportunity, and the fact they've been so successful at the World Junior Tournament that
the aura's gone.
Like that intimidation, like, oh, it's Canada, it's going to be almost impossible to win this game. I don't know if the American players think that, even though it's going to be virtually impossible.
And incredibly difficult decisions that had to be made by Billy Guerin and the management group for Team USA as well, right? I mean, there's outrage in Montreal because Cole Caulfield isn't on this team, but they're not writing him off at USA Hockey. They're looking to the Olympics.
This roster that just looks like they want to do something different. No disrespect to Cole Caulfield.
No.
But they said, we want to be bigger, we want to be stronger, we want to be something different.
They wanted more complete players, and they just don't think that Cole Caulfield and Tage Thompson are better than the 13 guys that they've invited.
You look at the depth wingers on that team, and I think of this, was the 16 World Cup when the Americans brought in David Backes and Brandon Dubinsky, and they did not fare well in that tournament. And Vinny Trocheck's not had a good year in New York. Chris Kreider's been injured. Plays very well in the power play. He's not going to be on the power play on the American team. Like, I just curious about those guys that filled out the bottom. If having more skill, more speed, whether it's Caulfield or not, might have been an attractive option.
I have one last question for you guys. What is this tournament going to look like? And we can start with Craig. Like, look they haven't played best on best. We know they want to win, but it's not an Olympics. Is Sam Bennett going to drill Matthew Tkachuk, Craig, if he has the opportunity?
I would say 100% definitively he will do exactly that. Because Matthew Tkachuk will do it to Sam Bennett. And I think that's the beautiful thing. I just watched the 2010 gold medal match again. I forgot how hard and competitive and edgy that game was that won in overtime with the golden goal by Crosby.
I think it's going to be somewhere between an NHL game and the Olympics, where it's like the fiercest of competition. It might be, there's a way of going to hit somebody and act like you want to kill them, but you don't really in this particular competition. It won't be NHL, it won't be the Olympics, it'll be somewhere in between.
I mean, who isn't looking forward to watching Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon for the first time play together?
It's going to be spectacular. One other element to this is Stanley Cup winners. And we know that Canada took this seriously. 15 Cup winners on Canada, 8 on Finland, only 3 on the American team, 3 on Sweden.
The Toronto Maple Leafs may be taking a new approach to salary management, which could directly impact Mitch Marner's contract negotiations. During Kyle Dubas' tenure as general manager, the team didn't hesitate to spend heavily, and this trend began with a 6-year extension signed by Marner in 2019. At the time, Marner's $10.9 million annual cap hit set the market for superstar wingers, surpassing comparable players like Mikko Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche, who signed a 6-year deal with a $9.25 million annual cap hit. Now, however, times seem to be changing. TSN's Pierre LeBrun recently reported that the Maple Leafs have implemented an internal salary cap, aiming to ensure no player earns more than captain Auston Matthews, who signed a 4-year extension worth $13.25 million per season in August 2023. The team's primary concern revolves around Marner's agent, Darren Ferris, who, according to LeBrun, might push for a percentage of the total salary cap instead of a fixed dollar amount. This could result in Marner's cap hit exceeding Matthews' $13.25 million, conflicting with the Leafs' new financial strategy. Ferris is known for driving negotiations to the limit, often taking his clients to free agency. This raises fears that discussions between Marner and the Leafs could drag on until July 1st, giving Marner and his camp all the leverage in negotiations. Another complicating factor is the rising market. LeBrun noted that Mikko Rantanen believes he could secure $14 million per season as a free agent. This sparks the question, could Marner demand even more? And would Ferris take that gamble, knowing the Leafs might opt to move on and sign another player? Marner has made it clear on multiple occasions that Toronto is where he wants to be. As a local player with deep ties to the city, he's expressed his desire to spend his entire career wearing the blue and white of the Leafs. However, staying with the team may require him to accept less than market value, especially if the front office remains committed to its new salary structure. Such a sacrifice could be vital for the team's collective success and to avoid financial issues that have plagued the recent past. While negotiations are still in the early stages, it's evident that Marner's future with the Leafs is at stake. Maple Leafs fans may need to prepare for the possibility of significant changes, but they can also trust in the player's commitment to the city and the franchise to find a compromise. The Maple Leafs' decision to implement an internal salary cap reflects a broader shift in their team-building philosophy. After years of prioritizing top-end talent with hefty contracts, the organization appears determined to strike a balance between superstar contracts and depth throughout the roster. This strategy aims to avoid the pitfalls of past seasons, where a lack of financial flexibility often left the team vulnerable in critical playoff moments. For Mitch Marner, this shift creates a unique challenge. On one hand, his value to the Leafs is undeniable. A consistent top scorer and elite playmaker, Marner has been instrumental in driving the team's offense. On the other hand, his ability to command a salary that rivals or exceeds Auston Matthews could put the Leafs in a difficult position, especially with a potential need to strengthen other areas of the roster. As the 2023-24 season progresses, the Leafs must weigh the potential consequences of sticking to their cap philosophy. Losing a homegrown talent like Marner would undoubtedly sting for fans and the organization alike. However, allowing one player to dictate financial terms beyond the team's structure could hinder long-term success and force painful sacrifices elsewhere. Adding to the complexity is the looming free agency of William Nylander. If the Leafs are to stick to their internal salary cap, they may also face challenges in retaining Nylander, who could command a significant raise. Balancing contracts for both Marner and Nylander within the new framework could prove to be the ultimate test for Toronto's management team. Another factor at play is the team's ultimate goal, winning the Stanley Cup. While star players like Marner and Matthews are crucial, history has shown that depth and balanced rosters often prevail in the postseason. If the Leafs fail to manage their finances effectively, they risk falling short of building a championship-caliber team, even with elite talent. For Marner, the decision to stay with the Leafs might come down to more than just dollars. His connection to the city, the fans, and his teammates could be deciding factors. If he prioritizes legacy and loyalty over maximizing earnings, there's a strong possibility that he'll work with the team to find a deal that benefits both parties. Negotiations will also test Darren Ferris, known for his hardline tactics in securing lucrative deals for his clients. While pushing for top dollar is expected, Ferris may need to weigh the risks of alienating the Leafs management and fanbase. A prolonged stalemate could damage Marner's relationship with the team and its supporters. The Leafs management, led by general manager Brad Treliving, faces a pivotal moment. Treliving's reputation as a negotiator and team builder will be on full display as he navigates this high-stakes scenario. Striking the right balance could solidify his tenure in Toronto, while a misstep might set the team back for years. For Maple Leafs fans, the coming months will be filled with anticipation and uncertainty. Marner's future, along with the team's ability to stay competitive under financial constraints, will likely dominate conversations as the season unfolds. Supporters can only hope that the team's new approach leads to greater playoff success and, ultimately, the elusive championship. In the end, the outcome of these negotiations could redefine the Maple Leafs' identity for years to come. Whether it results in retaining Marner or reshaping the roster, the team's commitment to an internal salary cap signals a clear focus on long-term sustainability. Fans will be watching closely, hoping for a resolution that keeps the team's core intact and their championship dreams alive. As the negotiations with Mitch Marner progress, another layer of complexity is added by the external competition in the NHL market. Teams with more cap space and fewer restrictions could easily present lucrative offers to Marner if he reaches free agency. The Leafs are not only negotiating with Marner but also indirectly competing with other franchises willing to outbid them for his services. One example of this is Mikko Rantanen, whose potential $14 million value on the open market highlights the growing demand for elite wingers. If Rantanen secures such a deal, it could set a precedent that Marner's camp would use as leverage. The Leafs, however, must remain disciplined, as breaking their internal salary cap for Marner could lead to similar demands from other key players down the line. The looming specter of free agency means the Leafs have a limited window to strike a deal. If negotiations drag on into the off-season, the leverage shifts heavily in favor of